Welcome to my workshop. My name's Darren and this is 3D Prints in the Workshop number 16. Okay, got a few things to show you today, all related to sharpening in one way or another. I've got a couple of bits for the Tormek jig. I've got some jig feet. I'll explain those a little bit better later. And a few other bits and pieces. So without further ado, let's get on with it. This is the little jig that I made for holding my sharpening stones on the bench. We've got a little bench hook on the back there, so it'll hold against the side of the bench, and then the actual stones slot in with a click. That one's a really nice tight fit. As you can see, it's not going to go anywhere. Ready to be used, and it works well. But most of my sharpening stones are water stones, and so all the water just sluices straight off the top of this during use and onto the workbench. I'm going to make myself a newer version of this jig that will hold a few stones and a strop and be a little bit bigger, so as water runs off it, it stays on the actual jig and doesn't run onto the bench. I've decided to use a piece of marine ply for the bottom of the sharpening station, and I've printed up these little, what look like feet, on my 3D printer out of a bit of brown PLA plastic. And what they're going to do is screw in 4 spots like that, and these just happen to be exactly the right size to sit in these holes. I've left a tiny bit of wiggle room, just the tiniest bit, so as I can align them, but by the time I get 4 in there, that's going to be a pretty tight fit, and that board's not going to slide anywhere. Okay, to make sure that I get my feet aligned perfectly with the centres of these circles, I'm not going to rely on doing it by eye. Instead, I've chopped the tip off a nail and given it a bit of a sharpen on the belt sander. I'm going to pop that in one of the feet and use that through a piece of MDF with dog holes in it to make sure it's perfectly aligned. And so these holes are drilled in the same pattern as the MFT3 table and as my workbench. I'm going to use those to align the holes on here. So I've got my nail in my foot. It sounds painful, doesn't it? And I'm going to use that as a centre marker. Yeah, that worked well. Okay. Yes, beautiful. That's not going anywhere. Those feet work a treat. So, on to the next thing. Now, if I'm going to sharpen something, what I need is an angle gauge. So I had to print one of those up. Okay, so it's a simple angle gauge for finding the angle of plane blades, chisels and the like. It's got certainly the most common angles I'll be using, so hopefully it'll be of some use to other people as well. And if you're going to use this, the way it's laid out is the number is closest to the angle. So this one is 10 degrees, this one is 35, 30, 25, 20 and 15. So I expect this to be a 25-degree angle on this plane blade, and sure enough it is. And just to show you, well, exaggerated a bit, that's definitely not a 15, definitely not a 35. There you go, that one's a 30. My Japanese chisel here is a 30-degree angle. My Narek chisel's a 25-degree angle. This is my Tormek Super Grind sharpener. You've probably seen one of these before, but for those of you that haven't, the idea is you've got 2 wheels. They make 2 models, a large and a small. And the idea is they have 2 wheels, one over here that's an abrasive stone and one over here that's a leather strop. They rotate at a much lower speed than an angle grinder, and so don't heat your tools up anywhere near as much. And furthermore, you've got this tray here which takes water and keeps the stone wet. It's actually a wet stone sharpener. Downside of that is it spits water all over the bench. It really does, especially when you're doing knives. So I'm looking at a 2-step approach to fix this problem. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is have a tray here, pop this in it. Yeah, like that. So the tray will catch the water and it won't go over the bench. Now, straight away you can see the obvious flaw with this idea. This is an electrical item and it's going to be sitting in its own pool of water. So, two things. Firstly, if you look inside, the electrics are actually quite high up. Alright, it is hard to show you through here with the camera, but the electrics don't start till about where my finger is. But that's enough of an excuse to be sticking it in a pool of water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these feet off. I'm going to make up some new ones, but are much taller, so this sits further up away from the water. And I'm going to put a drain on the tub, so if it goes over a certain height, of course it just drains off into another container. You can see that that drain's installed almost flush with the bottom, so the water's never going to raise more than a few mil. And you can see the new MFT3 feet on the bottom of the unit, significantly taller than the old feet. Okay, first to admit that's not my best siliconing. In fact, it's pretty messy, but it'll still work, and that's all that really matters. And if we have a look, the top of that drain hole is appearing at 15 millimeters. And if we come over here and have a look at the Tormek with its new feet on, you can see that 15 millimeters is only just above the bottom layer, so well below the electrics now. And I doubt that the water in the bottom will ever get over 5 millimeters. I doubt it'll even get that high. Obviously I wasn't the only person on the planet thinking that the water going all over your bench from these was a bit of a problem. Someone called Eiffel Tom has whipped up his T4 upper drop tank for sharpening knives. Okay, so this little piece slides into here and we tighten it up. And theoretically now what should happen is as we sharpen and water drips along, the knife would normally drip on the top of the unit, it's going to go back down into this catcher. So hopefully we've got everything covered now. Okay, so we've got Eiffel Tom's little water catcher there. I've hopefully wet this wheel enough now. These are very absorbent. I keep having to refill the tank, but hopefully now we're at the point where I can just go. Yep, did you see that? Little drip of water just came off, landed straight in there. That certainly works well. Right, well that was only a short period of sharpening, but we've got a few drops in there that would have otherwise ended up on the unit. And we've got a little bit down in the bucket itself, but certainly nothing to even worry about needing a drain for. That's perhaps overkill in retrospect. Okay, so you can see I've unplugged it just for the sake of the test. We're going to take our tray of water here and we're just going to dump the whole thing, what's left of it, just into there like that. And as you can see, those feet are well and truly doing their job, holding it well out of the water. And because the tray is a lot bigger than the unit too, there's plenty of surface area for the water to spread out on. Okay, that brings us to the close of another episode. Hopefully it's been of some use. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.